is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path.
First reading. A reading from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verses 1 and 5 to 9. Then Moses said to the people, "Obey all the laws that I am teaching you, and you will live and occupy the land which the Lord, the God of your ancestors, is giving you. I have taught you all the laws, as the Lord my God told me to do. Obey them in the land that you are about to invade and occupy. Obey them faithfully, and this will show the people of other nations how wise you are. When they hear of all these laws, they will say, 'What wisdom and understanding this great nation has!' No other nation, no matter how great, has a God who is so near when they need Him as the Lord our God is to us. He answers us whenever we call for help. No other nation, no matter how great, has laws so just as those that I have taught you today. Be on your guard. Make certain that you do not forget, as long as you live, what you have seen with your own eyes. Tell your children and your grandchildren." The word of the Lord.
Jesus, you told us that love should be the primary motive in observing 10 Commandments. Therefore, help us always to observe 10 Commandments out of love. A reading is taken from the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew chapter 5 verses 17 to 19. Do not think that I have come to do away with the law of Moses and the teachings of the prophets. I have not come to do away with them, but to make their teachings come true. Remember that as long as heaven and earth last, not the least point nor the smallest detail of the law will be done away with, not until the end of all things. So then whoever disobeys even the least important of the commandments and teaches others to do the same will be least in the kingdom of heaven. On the other hand, whoever obeys the law and teaches others to do the same will be great in the kingdom of heaven. This is the gospel of the Lord. My dear brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ, some people used to see a kind of opposition between Old Testament and New Testament. When we read the history of the Catholic Church, we see or we come across a heresy so-called Marcionite heresy, which was introduced by a person called Marcion. He said, I don't accept Old Testament because in the Old Testament we have a God who is so angry with his people, and we have a God who is so vengeful. Therefore he says, I don't accept Old Testament. And also he does not accept all the other Gospels except the Gospel of St. Luke. And he says, I accept only St. Luke's Gospel and the letters of St. Paul. Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ, there are people who see kind of an opposition between Old Testament and New Testament. And there are others who say, I am not under Old Testament law anymore, but I am under law of grace. They quote St. Paul because St. Paul also stated or said the same words. I am not under Old Testament law, but I am under the law of grace. Therefore, there are people who see kind of a dichotomy between Old Testament law and the law of grace. My dear brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ, this was the controversy that Jesus had with the Pharisees. Pharisees saw Jesus as a person who does away with Old Testament law. True enough that Jesus did not observe all the meticulous laws of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Jesus and his disciples, they did not wash their hands before the meals as it is prescribed by the Pharisees. Jesus healed so many sick people on the Sabbath day. But still for all in today's gospel, Jesus clearly says what is his stance before the Old Testament and Old Testament law. Jesus says, do not think that I came to abolish law and the prophets, but I came to fulfill them. Law means, my dear brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ, Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible. Prophets mean all the books of the minor and major prophets, including historical books as well. Therefore, Jesus says very clearly, I am not going to abolish Old Testament, but I am going to bring out the real spirit and the real depth of the Old Testament without cancelling it. How did Jesus do that? Jesus did that by introducing another new law, that is, law of love. Jesus says when you observe 10 commandments, you must not observe 10 commandments since God commanded you to do so in 10 commandments. But love must be your primary motive that really motivates you to observe each and every commandment. You must respect your parents since you love them. You must not respect your parents since law says so, or God says, or God asks you to do so in 10 commandments. And you must not commit adultery, you must not commit murder, not because the law says so, but you must do it out of love. My dear brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ, Jesus, in his life, he practiced this law of love. Jesus, as a Jew, he too recited the Shema thrice a day. He too recited this prayer and said, Lord, I love you with all my heart, with all my soul, and with all my spirit. And Jesus put that into practice. Jesus really loved his Father, not because Shema says so, but he really loved his Father. And it is same with the other commandment, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Jesus loved each and every one of us, not because law says so, but he really loved us. Therefore, he could even die on the cross. Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ, this is the spirit of the Decalogue. This is the spirit of the 10 commandments. If we want to observe 10 commandments to the fullest, love must be primary motive. We must not observe law since law commands us to do so. Amen.
Wachanayano